You are now listening to CTR Media Network.
The family. CTR Media Network. Yeah. Best in the biz. Yeah. Join the team. CTR is who we are, the media network, that's the best by far. Whether you listen at your home, at your job, in your car, come get the information that's needed above par. Never lasting, motivational podcasting, giving you the answers to the questions that you're asking. Serious talks and topics, how to come up and profit, how to better yourself, your health is here, we got it. Reaching 350 million, they tuning in. We in 50 different countries, we all can. And like-minded, find your purpose and your assignment. Come get your fix, your feel, your mental alignment. Get active and speak to the masses. Build your influence all levels and all classes. Now you know you can monetize and grow. CTR Media Network. Start the show. CTR Media Network.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to CTR Media Network TV. Today's guest is a globally recognized thought leader and award-winning author, a strategic powerhouse in customer-centric growth. With over 25 years of experience driving results for more than 300 companies worldwide, she is definitely the go-to expert for turning insight into action. Her approach isn't theory. It's tried, tested, and tailored to help businesses like yours thrive in an ever-changing marketplace. She's the author of Fast Track Your Business, a trusted speaker on global stages, and a force behind operational excellence, strategic alignment, and data-powered decision-making. Get ready for real strategies, real results, and real talk from the amazing customer-centric herself, Laura Patterson. Welcome to the show.
What a wonderful introduction. Thank you for having me, Tina. You always make everybody on your podcast and shows feel so special. Thank you for that.
Because you are. Because you are. And all too often, we don't ever hear that. We don't experience it enough. I feel like we do so much to help others. And it's my job when you come on my show or our show, our company show, to show you that I see you. I appreciate what you do. And hey, I can't do what I do without you. I need people.
I need people too. We all need people. I think they made a song about that. So anyway, thank you for having me. And I hope that the people who are part of this community, this amazing community that you have built, will take away at least one good idea today.
Oh, I'm sure they're going to take away several, because I saw what you do and I was like, oh my goodness. I absolutely love seeing women in arenas that is normally male dominated and thriving in those areas. Sure, we may have ups and downs like anybody, even the men too, whether they admit it or not. But to see you thriving and doing something that is not necessarily looked upon as something as a woman's job. And so when I see what you do, Laura, you're said to be a customer-centric or centric. Is it optional? It's essential. So what inspired your passion for this approach with this customer-centric approach?
Okay, I'll give you a kind of a short story, but I think it's important to have some context. I bet there are some people in your community that did similar things that I did growing up. I bet you did too, whether that was mowing lawns or shoveling snow or raking leaves or whatever it was. And one of the things I did was go door to door and sell the world's finest chocolate. I bet some of your folks might remember that. And I learned pretty early on that if I wanted to create business value, that is cash in hand, I had to have customer value. This is pretty early on. And you may remember, and they still have this program today called Junior Achievement. It is a phenomenal organization, Junior Achievement. And I had the honor to be a part of a Junior Achievement program, where you make something, you actually are part of a team. This is in the old days where you actually created a business, made something, and then had to market it and sell it, all the aspects of business. And I learned again, if you want to have something that people will buy, it better be able to tell them why it will be of value to them. I won't tell you what we made because it'll seem unimportant today. But at the time, we found, we made something very cool. And so that carried with me into my, high school, college, and corporate career, and all the way into now being at the helm of Vision Edge Marketing, which I founded in 1999. And I didn't really know what I had latched onto until I got into college and I read a book by Peter Drucker. And in that book, and if those of you listening who are entrepreneurs or want to be entrepreneurs, and if you're running a podcast, you're an entrepreneur. Okay, just saying that the purpose of a business is to create a customer. And so that is one of my messages. We are here to serve others, to help others to succeed. And if that means you have to have something of value for your customer, even if it's a podcast that you're bringing a story to, there has to be something in it for the customer to want to listen to that story. So that is how I kind of got here. And I has been remained of what we do all this time, that the customer is at the center of how you should run your company. That doesn't mean, and I'll just say this last thing, that you have to cater to every customer's whim. I know, Tina, that you don't take every guest, and I don't either on my podcast. So it doesn't mean you have to give in and give away. It just means that you want to have something that will be creating value for both the customer and for you. So one of the things that you often say is create a win-win. Same thing.
Yes. I'm all about the win-win scenario, because at the end of the day, if it's just about me, then I'm not going to do it, because I want you to feel as good as I feel with whatever we're doing together, like this podcast, having this equally synergy that we're having this conversation. That's why we're very meticulous on who we have on the show, because we want you to bring value and we are going to do our best to bring value. So it's just, like I said, the win-win. And so I do remember the world's finest chocolate. I was one of those girls as well. I remember one time winning the big prize, and I just was so happy winning the big prize. So, but I never thought about that was actually, I need to rethink how I explain my entrepreneurship journey, because now that I'm thinking about it, I started back then.
Yes.
And I didn't think of World's Finest Chocolates as that until you just said it. I'm like, I used to do that too.
A lot of us did.
Yeah, in the fruit club and all the kind of things like that. So I'm like, wait a minute, that was my first kind of experience with entrepreneurship. And I hadn't thought of that until you just said it. So when I think about your life in corporate America, how do you feel being in corporate America, being able to help over 300 companies with strategies? How do you take that over to what you're doing in entrepreneurship? And what made you say, I'm leaving corporate America and I'm gonna go do my own thing?
Okay, great questions. So I've been around a while. And when I went into the workforce, into corporate America, there weren't as many people that were women with kind of my more science background. My background is in research, data science, business, those analytics, those kinds of things. And so I was really fortunate to have great mentors. And I know that mentoring is a big topic for you. And I was very, very fortunate to have a great mentor in college, great mentor in graduate school, and a great mentor in my first corporate job, which was in the insurance industry, which is, as you know, very analytically oriented. And the person I worked for, who was this mentor, he's actually one of the first ones who helped really solidify this customer-centric DNA in me, because my job for him was to help him identify which customers to find, which customers to keep, and how to grow the share of wallet of his existing customer base. So it was all about the customer. And he was very entrepreneurial. So even though we were in this really large company, he was entrepreneurial in his approach, which made me realize that even in a large company, you can be entrepreneurial. In time, after a couple of other jobs along the way, I ended up in another company that was in a part of it that was early stage. It was a startup inside a very large company, also very entrepreneurial. When I joined it, there were like 40 people, all right, in this company that was hundreds of thousands of people. And this little company was Motorola. I bet some of your community members have heard of this company. But here in Austin, Texas, I lived in Florida. They brought me here to Austin, Texas. I had, some technology, some startup experience, some the right skill set that they wanted. And so I got the opportunity to be in this organization, which was also quite entrepreneurial, right? We went from a little itty bitty part of the company, eventually so large in 7 years that they broke us into 2 divisions. The person I worked for, who was also an amazing mentor, I worked for him 11 of the 14 years I was there. He moved into a very high position and brought me along, which was wonderful. Again, having good mentors and people who are your champions in the corporate world have a lot to do with what happens to you later. Anyway, I ended up leaving Motorola. I went to architect a customer loyalty. You'll hear this theme. So when I left Motorola, I ran what was known as the Customer Marketing and Brand Strategy Organization. And then I went to architect a customer loyalty product for the financial services industry. That led me somewhere else. And eventually, fast forward, it's 1999 in Austin, Texas. And if you know anything about Austin, Texas in 1999, it was one hopping town. I mean, the startups in this town were just amazing. And they were popping up overnight. If anybody remembers that heyday. And so if you could spell marketing and you understood upstream marketing, you could get a job. And so Vision Edge Marketing went from some companies wanting to hire me to be an employee to a company that turned those people into customers. That's entrepreneurship, right? So that's just an example. And then the rest of the story is as it is, so goes the rest of the story. And we have really stayed close to our roots of what we do. I know it's easy to get excited about trends, and there's been lots of trends in the last 26 years. And a lot of people thought podcasting was going to be a trend, Tina. Here it is. Here to say. So my point being that you have to know what is a real trend that is going to stay and how to build on that, and what is a fad that is going to go away. So I can't go to the gas station or grocery store in Austin without talking about AI. I don't know about you, right? That's a trend that's here to stay.
Yes, it is.
Hopefully that answered your question.
Yes, it did. And so what we're going to do, we're going to take a commercial break, but we're going to go a little deeper in it after the commercial break, because I feel like I understood what you were saying, but I want to make sure they understood some of the terminology of the words that you said, because, to us, when we say certain things, we think it's just regular, jargon, but we're going to break it down just a little bit more. We're going to get more into the nuts and bolts of who you are, why you do what you do, and how you can help our viewing and listening audience, because we definitely need help in regards to marketing, in regards to data analysis, and so much more. And that is what you do. So we're going to take this commercial break, and we'll be back in a moment.
Hello, my name is Alethea Tucker, and I am the CEO of Jolie's Enterprises. I'm also the host of a show entitled Reinvent and Rise, and the host of a podcast entitled Leveling Up the Podcast with Alethea Tucker. I recently had the distinct pleasure of working with Tina Ramsay and CTR Media Network in one of her programs, where she taught me how to get exposure for my podcast. She increased my visibility tremendously, and she showed me how to monetize both of my shows to make them revenue-generating products. I am so ecstatic and so happy with the service that she and her staff provided to me. She went above and beyond what I expected, and I certainly got far more than I ever dreamed I would get with her. So I highly recommend her for any of her programs. I highly recommend her as someone to go to if you are looking to Increase what you do with your podcast. Make it better. If you're looking to get visibility, definitely speak with her. You will not go wrong with her or anyone on her staff.
Anyway, let me bring Laura back to the stage because she is absolutely amazing. Laura, before the break, we actually talked about Motorola. We talked about the world's finest chocolate. We talked about trends and fads. We touched on AI. We touched on podcasting. And you mentioned some terms in regards to upstream and downstream marketing strategies. So for individuals that don't know what upstreaming or downstreaming marketing is, could you explain it to us a little bit?
I would love to. It's one of my favorite topics. It's not my words, and there's a great book about that, which we can talk about later. But yes, okay. Most people get very enamored with what we call the downstream. So if you write email campaigns and you create videos and you do social media posts and you are writing blogs and you're doing all kinds of stuff on LinkedIn or Twitter or Facebook and making reels on Instagram, and the list goes on and on and on. Maybe you're doing some virtual events. Maybe you're doing some live events. Whatever it might be, you're in the downstream. You are in the downstream. In order to do the downstream well, you got to swim upstream. Upstream is where you understand what is your value proposition? What is the impact you're going to have? What customers are you serving? What problem are you solving for them? Where do you find them? Questions like that. How are you going to measure your value to them? How are you going to measure the value for bringing it to you? Right? One of the things about CTR Media Network is it's about where content meets impact. Great. How are we going to measure that? Right? So all of that happens in the upstream. Your segmentation, the customer journey, what it is, your value proposition, how you're going to position it, what is all those questions, that's in the upstream. And in order to do the downstream, make all those pretty things that we love to make, right? Which we need to have, because that's what allows us to engage with, whether that's the lead magnet or the landing page or whatever it might be. If we don't have the messaging right, if we don't understand all the stuff in the upstream, it won't work. So that's why it's important to focus first on the upstream before you get focused on the downstream. And it's really, really easy to be pulled into the downstream because it's the current, right? It's really easy to happen. And it's easy. We have a plan. We sat and we worked on it. Maybe we took some time off between Thanksgiving and the end of the year, and we put this plan together. And then January comes along and the world goes upside down and topsy-turvy. And we throw our plan out and we're just, blown in the wind. Well, that's when you end up blowing in the wind and doing a bunch of random things down in the downstream, you're probably wasting a lot of time, energy, and money. And just something for you to think about. The average person, and I'm included in this too, the average person spends somewhere around 30 to 50% of their day doing things that are random acts. Random acts. Just random things with just things that happen during the day that we weren't planning on, things that pop up that we didn't plan on. And when that happens, God only gave us 24/7. That's all we got. So that's time that's being taken away from us. And that time is also our energy and our strategic capacity. Now, some of us get paid. Some of us maybe do this for love, whatever it might be. But if you calculate what the 30 to 50% turns into annually in terms of real dollars, it's a bootload of cash, right? So you want to eliminate those random acts. You want to be deliberate, which means you need to have good processes. You can't just wing your podcast. What is your operational excellence for your podcast? What happens before? I know you guys do a bunch of things before, right? What do you do after? That's part of operational excellence. That has to have a process. It should be intentional. What's your strategy around your podcast or anything else that you're bringing to the marketplace? What's the strategy? What's your why? Right? And then how are you going to bring that to life? That becomes your plan and eventually your activities. Customer-centric. Who are your customers? Who are you talking to? What is it they want to hear? How you're going to give them value every time you're talking with them, right? And then how are you going to measure what you're bringing to the table? And if it's working, how are you going to know? Is it just your ego because you got all these fans and followers, or is it some other more meaningful measure that you're looking for? And then how are you doing it in a smart way? Are you doing it with insights from your data? So those are the kinds of things that are happening more in the upstream versus down in the downstream. I hope that was helpful.
That was incredibly helpful, because what I just realized is that most business owners are in the downstream. and
You think?
and I was one of them until until I started really looking at the analytics and the data on each platform as a team and also as individuals. Planning out, creating the content with the team, but also seeing once you put it out there, how did the audience receive it? I mean, many times I thought something was just going to be viral. It's going to do this, it's going to do that. And then you look at the data and be like, they didn't like that too much, and then it's something that I didn't even think they would like, and they absolutely love it. So are you going to take your ego and you're going to keep creating what you know they don't want? Or are you going to give them what they want? And so with entrepreneurs, we have to learn to give our audience what they want. It don't matter what we want to do. It's what we want to do for them, not so much us. And so when you were saying what's in the downstream, I'm like, that's about 97% of people in the downstream. Wow. You just blew my mind. You just blew my mind with, and then you said the statistic 30 to 50% of pretty much wasting time. We get caught up in non-trivial things. And so when I think about the fact that most business owners are in the downstream, what are some tactics that they can use to kind of develop that habit, that muscle, where they won't get overwhelmed when they start switching from the downstream to the upstream? Because the thinking process is totally different.
What a terrific question. And so I'm going to give you a little test that you can, first of all, and then I'm going to make a suggestion. So one of the things that we use as a test when people are creating a plan is we start with, what is the outcome? How will you know what success is at the end of whatever the time period is, right? So what is the outcome you're trying to achieve? Ideally in customer-centric terms, if we can get them close to that. And then we look at that plan, and I'll start asking this question. Can you draw a straight line from that outcome all the way down through your objectives, your strategies, your programs, your tactics, activities? A straight line in your plan all the way down to the bottom. Anything that's not on that line is an orphan. And if it's an orphan, you better be careful, because it might be a random act, taking up your time and money. If it's not meant to be an orphan, then how do you tie it back into an outcome? Don't try to fit it in. A lot of people try to force fit. Oh, I've always done this sponsorship. We've always done, my husband has one of those little favorite sponsorships that he spends money on in his company. And I always tell him, that's fine. You can have a love, but don't say you're doing it for a good business purpose, because it's not helping business, because it ties to absolutely nothing. We can do things that bring us love and joy and make us feel good, but don't try to justify that as a business effort. Be honest about what it is. It's an orphan. You like doing it. Okay, right? So some orphans maybe have an outcome that's not up there, and we need to get it on the board. Some orphans probably need to come off the board and say, we're done with that. So that's answering that first question. Now let me answer it the other way. You're doing things. How do you know whether it's a random act? If I asked you, what outcome does this act tie to? Now think about this. I'm in Texas, so football is a religion down here. Okay, so I'm going to use this. I'm going to make this totally wrong. All you football fans listening, I'm going to make a lot of mistakes in this metaphor. You can reach out to Tina and tell her I didn't know anything about football. You're right. I don't know anything about football. But here's one thing I know about football. If you have a ball and you have a goal at the end, and you have X amount of yardage, you have to move this ball. And we have to move the ball methodically down the field within a certain time frame, or a certain amount of yardage every time, or we're going to lose the ball. This much I know, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you're working on an act, my question to you is, how is this moving the ball down the field towards your touchdown? And if you don't know the answer to that, it's probably a random act, right? So we all get into random acts. It happens. Some are unavoidable. Things come up. We have to address them. But some of them are just due to lack of a process. So you always stuck in you get into this sort of repeat random acts because you have no process that you're following. So processes are really important and help you reduce random acts, which are essentially a form of chaos, right? So right? And if you feel like you're operating in chaos, then it's very possible that that part of it could be a process issue more than an outcome issue even. So does that resonate with you?
Yes. And it's going to resonate with a lot of people. Because like I said, most people I feel are in the downstream, and then they're very comfortable. Like you said, you hit an emotional point when you said about certain sponsorships, you might have that may have served you well in the past. And it doesn't mean that they're a bad business. It just maybe mean that you outgrew this type of partnership, and in order for you to expand, you need to be opening up to different audiences, different people, in order to take your business or your strategy, like you said, the plan or the process, to the next level, where this current sponsor, they have taken you as far as they can go, as far as you can go. And so for me, I would say this right here. I do a lot of different things in the past that gave me that warm, fuzzy feeling inside, because I just I love helping people. But when I start getting more methodical about building business and looking at strategies and looking at the data and seeing what was actually producing and what wasn't, I had to it wasn't personal. I had to put on my business hat and be like, okay, I'm only allowed so many businesses a year that we can just do something for, or that we can collaborate with in order to give back. It don't necessarily have to be something that's going to make us grow, but it's something that we're always giving back. But after I reach that number, that's it. Until next year. Okay. I had to put myself, it was hard. I had to put myself to measure what I was doing as an individual and as a company. Now, that may not work for everybody, but I had to start writing things down, and really, I had to get used to reading and understanding the data, because we use social media, we use podcasting, we use TV streaming, we use books, we use magazines. But do you ever, it's the only thing you're looking at is the dollar amount of how much you made. You're not looking at what countries, what people, I had to learn to train myself to that. So speaking of that, this is what you're great at. Let's talk about the performance. Let's talk about the dashboards that most entrepreneurs see it and go, I don't want to ruin it. I don't want to do it. Let's talk about why they need to run to the dashboard versus running away from the dashboard, because it really helps you with your bottom line.
Absolutely. And I love dashboards. And I want to be clear. And let me see if I can help you again with a metaphor. I'm going to change sports, people. Let's talk golf. Okay, let's talk golf. When you, for those of you who play golf, I'm sure you'll send a note about how I screwed this all up. It's okay. Just follow along best as you can. So I don't play golf, but I am married to someone who plays a lot of golf, and I've been married for over 30 something years. So I hear golf a lot. And one of the things I happen to know is when you go sign up for a round of golf, they give you this little card. And this little card is a scorecard. And this little card tells you for every hole how many time, what the par is going to be. That is how many strokes from the time that you hit the ball from the starting position to the time the ball is in the hole at the end, at the flag, how many it's supposed to take, right? And you track that. And the person with the lowest number, that's the winner of the round. And I won't go into all the other details about how people bet on that and all the other things that happen in the golf games, right? Because I always ask him how much did he bring home that day, because that's bragging rights. But my point being is you get a number, but you don't know why. You don't know why that par, which was a par 5, took you 8. You don't know if it's because you hit it out of bounds, you didn't make greens in regulation, you had too many putts on. You don't know if it was your short game, you don't know if it was your long game, you don't know what to fix. You just see your number. A dashboard tells you what is going on in a way that you can figure out what to fix. So if you're playing golf and you're tracking how many times I hit it out of bounds, right? I went outside the boundaries. How many times it took? How many? Is it a long game? I don't get enough yardage when I am driving, or is it my short game? I can get it to the green, but then I spend a lot of time flexing around up there for whatever. Or is it because I end up in a lot of traps? Whatever the reasons are, I'm tracking that on my dashboard. So when I go back and look at after a few games, I can say, wow, I have a tendency to do X. And typically, when I'm on these kinds of holes, I end up whatever, ending up out of bounds X number of times when I'm on these types of holes. Now I can figure out what I need to do to change my swing. Could never do that from my little round card. And so people who track what's happening in, how many followers and how many downloads or how many subscribers or how many opens or how many clicks or whatever it is they're tracking, think of that as a little bit like your golf round card. And that's nice. It's important to know, right? It gives you some information, but your dashboard is more like what we were talking about. Why? It helps you get to why and what you need to fix. And so that's why a dashboard is so important. I hope that was a useful metaphor.
Oh, yes, it was, because most people are just using the card. They're still, we're in the digital age and we're still using archaic means of marketing, data, research. One thing that I see so much is for business owners, they're afraid of this new technology. For the ones who are accepting it, learning, not afraid to try it out, you're not going to be great at it first. You're going to figure it out, right? And then you have strategies. I tell businesses all the time, we're going to piggyback and talk about the conversation that we had in the beginning, which was talking about the trends and the fads. And we kind of laughed about people thought podcasting was a fad, but we see, so how can we use that dashboard, quote unquote, to determine if something that we're doing, maybe it's a fad, maybe it's a trend. And if it's such, should we even do a fad as a business owner, or should we just focus on the trend, or should it be a mix of both?
How much money do you have? Yeah. Okay, so look, it's all right. I hope metaphors are helpful to people. So I just want to say something about that. I'm a girl and I like clothes. Not all women like clothes, but I do, right? And there are things that are going to be fads, right? Whatever those fads might be. And then there are going to be things that are going to be trends, right? So if I have a lot of money, which I don't have a lot of money, if I had a lot of money, I can do fads, because it doesn't matter if it goes out of season or it's no good in 6 months and I have to give it away or throw it away, right? Because it doesn't really matter. Because I have the means to do that. But if you don't have the means to do that, then you want to invest in classic pieces, right? For those of us who may be on a more limited budget, we want to invest in things that are classics. And we know what those are because they're tried and proven things that will work. Now, you can't wear the same black jacket that you wore 25 years ago because things have somewhat changed. But there are classic styles of a black jacket. And there's no woman on this planet who doesn't have a classic black jacket. Okay, right? Yeah. So back to being a podcaster and an entrepreneur. Get clarity around what are the classic things you need to have in your closet or in your toolkit, right? You have to have a way to have a website. You have to have a way to do email. You have to have a way to do strategic planning. You have to have certain things. These are classic pieces you have to have, and you have to know how to do them, and they will evolve. Just like that classic black jacket doesn't stay the same for 25 years, it will evolve, and you need to find out what it is evolving to so that you are capable of buying the next black jacket, because you're going to have to buy another one. It's just the way life is. So what you might have used for an email program 20 years ago is not what you're using today for an email program. You're going to have to modify and adapt, but email's not going away, right? Texting has certainly gone from something that was an intrusion a few years ago to something people do on a regular basis now, and that's a form of business. So that is what might have been perceived as a distraction and a fad has become a trend. But think about it. When you get those texts from people that you don't know and you've never really talked with, and they send you a text, do you respond to that in a positive way or not in a less positive way? So texting might be okay if you have an existing relationship, might not be okay for people you don't know. Does that make sense? So if you think about it, it's not only the trend, it's also the use and context of that trend. So give that some thought for whatever you're doing. When I started my podcast over 5 years ago, What's Your Edge? It's all monologue, because back then, only a few people were doing all this guesting. Well, I changed that because the world wants to hear other people's points of view, not just my point of view, even though, I think I have a point of view. They want other voices. So I modified. So think about what you're doing and be willing to adapt. It doesn't mean you have to stop doing your podcast. It just means you might have to pivot slightly. And so that's part of being an entrepreneur, is being able to know when to pivot.
That is so true. Understanding when to pivot and then having the knowledge to know how to pivot. And so what you're doing is giving us how we can pivot, but you're giving us different lanes that we can pick based upon whatever it is that we're doing. And when I first started my podcast, it was just me as well. And then eventually someone asked me one day randomly when I was live and said, how can I be a guest on your show? Never even considered.
Same here.
Never even considered it, because for years I'm doing it by myself. And then I said, well, maybe I should consider it. I don't even know how that would work. But I did somebody come on the show, and then it worked. It worked. So I'm like, and then look at me now, these years later, now I'm speaking to Laura. So
exactly.
I'm like, you're right. You have to pivot. Same thing, same concept, podcasting, but now letting other people's perspective come in to have open dialogue. So you speak about this 4 game changers that every business should adopt. So how can small businesses start implementing part of this 4 game changer process that you have?
Okay, let me tell you what the 4 game changers are, everyone, so you'll know what they are. First one is to be customer-centric. And we talked a little bit about that. And that really means having clarity about who your customers are, what is of value to them, and what is it that you bring to the table that they value about you. So things like that. That's the first thing. So if you're in it, if we build it, they will come, Field of Dreams, baseball kind of metaphor, probably not customer-centric, okay? Just to give you sort of the opposite. And if you're one of those people that just knocks on the door and keeps knocking door after door after door till you can sell that world's finest chocolate bar and never really have a way to reel in the customer and talk about what might be important to them about a piece of chocolate or supporting a school or whatever it is that might resonate with them, then you're probably selling, not really serving, all right? Serving before selling, okay? Second game changer is really about using data. And we've talked a lot about using data. And I love some of the suggestions that Tina has made about how you can go look at some of your data and try to understand what it's telling you. And part of having that data, think about, who are your customers? How many do you have? And if we have time, another time, maybe if Tina and I have a chance to talk again, I'll give you a really good metaphor to think about how to understand your customers. So understand your customers. Who are they? What do they like to buy? Or in your podcast, what do they like to listen to? What are the problems they're trying to solve? How can you help them solve those problems? What are their aspirations? How can you help them achieve them? Those kinds of information in data, real data, not anecdotal. Get some real data around that. Third game changer is strategy, right? And strategy is really about knowing what to do and making a decision of what not to do, because no one can do it all. I've never met a single company, no matter how big they are, no matter how much money they have, that can do everything. They just can't. I can't, you can't, and even the biggest company can't. So strategy is about making choices. And again, when you want to make those choices, think about the things that are going to help your customers be more successful, give value to your customers, those kinds of things, or your listeners, or your community, whatever that is. Back to the comment about having impact. And then the last game changer is really related to operational and performance excellence. So having good measures, right? And having good processes in place, because that's what's going to allow you to be both effective and efficient. So those are the game changers.
Yes, and want to piggyback off those operational processes. Business owners, please listen to me clearly. You have to stop manually sending emails and manually you have to stop manually sending everything. I know you've been doing it this way for the past 5-10 years, but you're not going to be able to handle the influx of more people. Because because I'll never forget when I first went viral years ago, and I'm going to be totally transparent and honest with you. I did all the things that Laura said. I was doing the downstream. I was downstream. I was doing that. I wasn't prepared. I'm just thinking, okay, I'm going to create this content, do this right here, do that, and then whoop, somebody saw it. And then an influencer picked it up, and then it went viral, right? Guess what? I wasn't ready because I didn't have my operational processes together. I was still doing a lot of things manual, and the systems that I did have back in the day, it wasn't equipped to handle a massive amount of people. And so what happened? Website crashed. Email couldn't accept. Filled up the whole email list. Lost a lot of customers because you couldn't just get to everybody. And so you lose your bottom line. You also miss different opportunities because you're not prepared. So I would tell all business owners now, stop being afraid of this technology. Learn to invest in good quality software that has good customer service where you can call them. And if you have trouble or what, and most of them, when they're high quality, they have their own customer service and they'll do an onboard and walk you through the whole process. Right. And so, or find somebody, a VA that can actually work the system for you if you can't do it yourself. Because of that, I had to learn the hard way years ago that you can't do everything.
Right.
And when you try, you're going to fail because you're just one person. And so I don't want you to be like me and miss out on a lot because you just was not ready. Because one day, all this work you're doing is going to hit. But are you ready? I wasn't. But I tell you what, I'm ready now. But back then, oh my goodness, what became a blessing became a burden. I was like, what am I going to do? My website, everything going down because all these people coming. So what Laura said about the emails, what she said about text messages, what she said about the process, and please take that to heart and do that because it is indeed something that you need to put in process now. So when I think about how the world is evolving and changing, like you mentioned before, how can businesses stay rooted with the strategies and learn? For me, being flexible was one of the best things that I learned for myself, even though I have a plan, but understanding sometimes you have to be flexible with that plan. Do you have one thing that you can tell them on that?
So, boy, you said so many really good things about technology and having your processes and thinking about it a little bit later. Being prepared now for later. And I think all of that is so important. I think that the bottom line for me is every day have clarity around whether what you're working on is moving the ball down the field? Just ask yourself that question. And how much will X item, which I'm working on, will that move the ball down the field 10 yards or 2? And will Y item move the ball down the field 2 yards or 20, right? Mm-hmm. And how much opposition will I face in moving the ball down the field? Because in the football world, obviously you're playing against somebody, but you are playing against somebody now. You're playing against time. You're playing against competitors. You're all kinds of things you're playing against. So some things will be easier to move down the field and other things will be harder to move down the field. So every day, just be asking yourself, is this going to move the ball down the field for what it is I'm trying to accomplish for my business? And why are you here? You're here to serve your customers. So what does that look like? It always comes down to really balancing creating customer value and business value. But if you have to make a choice between customer value and business value, choose customer value. It will pay off in the long run.
Yes, it does. Everything that I do is about people first, profit last. Profit is always last. If it's a list of 5 things, profit is the 5th thing. When you lead that way, I call it the boomerang effect. It's always going to come back around to you. So don't think you're missing out by having a customer-centric business that is there to bring value to your customers or your client, whichever way you want to call them, customers, clients, whatever the case may be. But what has served me well over these years was when I shifted, not so much thinking about business and sales, but thinking about how can I help my customer, that one client at a time, bring them value and be able to change their life or be able to get them one step closer to whatever their goal is. And I measure my success based upon 2 words. And people might think it was dollar amounts, even though I made quite a bit of money, but 2 words. And I knew I did my job. What are the words? Thank you.
Yes.
When a customer or a client tell me thank you, that is the highest regard of appreciation. That is what we tell God at the end of the day when he do things for us. We say, thank you, Lord. Thank you, God. When they tell me thank you, I know that I did my job. I know that I did my job. Or they say, I appreciate you. But the main one, thank you. And when your customer or client says that, let me tell you something about that thank you. When they say thank you, they will not only be a loyal customer or client for the long haul, but they will bring others because they want everybody to know what you did for them. And they know that you can do the same for them. And word of mouth referrals is the best thing. So when is the last time your customer or your client told you thank you for what you offer, what service or product you have? Have they said thank you? Then you need to see, are you really helping them? Or are you just making money off them? And if it's just about the money, honey, you need to rework your whole strategy because money come and go. But people is more valuable than money. Just so happen people have money, they are patronizing, but people is more important than money.
Start with there, right? I bet some people could use that.
Yes. So the data, that is something that we can all benefit from. And for those of you who want to know more, because I know Laura is a very busy person, you have a book called Fast Track Your Business. And so where can they find this book? Because I know they're probably on the edge of their seat wanting to know what the KPI is, what's some additional information on the downstream and the upstream. So where can they get this book? And also tell them about your podcast so they can also listen to your podcast.
Sure, I'd be delighted to do that. And thank you for having me, Tina. I want to make sure I say that out loud and everyone can hear that. This has been an amazing conversation. So Fast Track Your Business can be found on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and other places like that. But I imagine most people will go to Amazon. You can buy it in print. You can get an ebook. You can download it as an audiobook, any format that makes you happy, because that's the goal of making customers happy. VisionEdgeMarketing.com is our website, and it has more content on it than you will ever be able to get through. And so there are hundreds and hundreds of free articles, just anything from here that you got inspired, you want to do upstream, put it in a search engine. and it'll pop up. You want to talk about measures? Oh my gosh. I bet there are 88 to 100 articles on measurement and things you can measure on that in our blog library. So have fun with that. Every episode of What's Your Edge is also available on our website. Of course, it's at Spotify and Apple and iHeartRadio and all the other places you might go. It's called What's Your Edge. But you can also find it on our website, and we keep all episodes. And I don't know, there's probably over 60 episodes. If you're really bored and you want to listen to a bunch of metaphors, the first like X number of podcasts all use metaphors. Like, have fun.
Listen, the information that you went over just now, because marketing, data, all these topics are usually a very scary topic for most business owners. They kind of shy away. They stay more focused on the social media side. They stay more focused on their bottom line. And because when they start talking about these numbers, they get a little afraid. But the way that you was able to break it down with all these illustrations and these metaphors that are common, you guys did not see what was happening today. I need to bring you guys to what Laura did. Okay. She gave you common things that are very general to the general public, that no matter what walk of life you are, whether you play golf, whether you play or not, whether you watch football or play football, but you would definitely know the key things that she said in order for you to be able to draw the information, to have word association and a picture in your head, so that now you can understand and help you lose the anxiety that's associated with you having the alignment with data, because this is the missing link of why your business is not growing. This is why she is called the growth strategist and the expert on this, because she's able to make complex situations very simple and illustrate it very generically so that everyone can understand. I have never, and I've been interviewing for a very, 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 very long time, I have never, ever had any growth strategists or marketing strategists been able to break it down in an elementary level. So kudos to you, your metaphors and your illustration, because you drove the point right home. I was like, woo, she just made this so easy. I don't even play golf, but now I think I might want to swing a couple. I think I might want to get that little card and then see how long it took me to hit the hole, the ball in the hole. Now I think I might want to go and try it now. I've been invited, but I'll be like, no, I'm not gonna go. But I'm like, maybe I'm gonna go this time.
Let me start with some putt-putt golf.
So I appreciate you and everything that you're doing in regards to not only helping us understand and not be afraid of data, understanding this terminology, so now we can actually execute what we're learning, but also being a woman in this male-dominated industry, making it so elementary that even if I pull the child in, they will be able to pull from it with it and be able to run. So thank you for what you do. Keep doing the metaphors. Don't ever drop that. Figure out some way. Don't ever drop the metaphors.
Thank you. And if anyone that is in the community needs to reach out and just feels like the idea was there, but they didn't quite grasp it, feel free to reach out at Laura P. at visionedgemarketing.com. Always welcome hearing from you.
Well, you guys, this has been another fantastic episode. This is an episode that you're going to need to rewatch, re-listen to with a notebook and a pen or a pencil, because it was so many great gems and nuggets throughout this episode that you can expand on, and you're going to need the book. I'm getting ready to purchase the book. How about that? I'm very honest and transparent. I know some things, but hey, she know more than me. Why you think she on this show? I make sure I bring people in my arena, in the circle with me, that knows more than me, because she been able to take something that's I just maybe a couple of years ago got to the point where I was comfortable with all the data. And now I'm starting to really love it, because it's speaking to me. I'm like, ooh, I know exactly what to do now. I'm not wasting any more time. Okay, drop this. Let's do that. Okay, let's spin that. Let's repurpose that. Listen, data is your best friend. It's your best friend at the end of the day. So Laura, again, thank you. And I'm definitely going to be a subscriber to your podcast because what you just did today, I know you have a whole lot more over there. So I need to go check it out. So thank you for being on our show, and you have an amazing, amazing rest of your day. For those of you, I need you guys to go ahead and download the app. You may be watching us on social media now, but we also have where you can connect with our information, our show, as well as the other podcasters on CTR Media Network. On the go. You can exercise while you're commuting them to and from school or yourself to work or on your lunch break. Listen to these episodes, be able to grow and thrive. We have things from education all the way to entertainment. The list goes on and on, from amazing guests from my show as well as other shows. Make sure to check out Laura Patterson because she is the customer-centric growth strategist. She has proven strategies to fast track your business to success. You guys have a great and amazing rest of your day. And thank you for being on or watching CTR Media Network TV. We'll see you next week, same time, same place.
CTR Media Network is now accepting new podcasters to join our growing network that's reaching 350 million global listeners. Have you heard? CTR Media Network offers podcast production, podcast training, distribution, and product placement. Book us for your next event or schedule an interview with CTR Media Network podcasters today. To learn more, go to ctrmedianetwork.com.